Hi, this is Casey Casperson.
And this is Anthony Francis.
And this is Steakout. And today's topic of discussion is developing characters on the spot in an improv scene, and how we do it, and how we might suck at it as well.
That's right. Sometimes you got to make a character up immediately, right in that moment. You know what I mean? He's got to have a point of view. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you don't want him to be like a caricature. You want him to actually have some fundamental base to him.
Yeah, right.
A point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
Sure. Not too caricature. I think when you create a character, and even when you're acting, because you're always a character. I mean, you can be you on stage, but to come at it with a realistic approach, because then the audience sees it as real. The pirate is really a pirate. He doesn't know he's a pirate. He doesn't know how funny he is.
Right. He doesn't actually say, "Okay, I've gone too long," without saying "arg."
Right. I'm just a pirate, and my goals are completely separate from your goals. I want to kill people. I want to take their treasure. You know, it has nothing to do with me being a pirate. It's not about my voice. Why stop looking at me like that? Don't. I lost my arm. Okay, I lost my arm, and I put a hook on, and now I have a short. I should have gotten a hook extension.
Yeah, but don't you feel a little bit as you do it that you're really not a pirate? Like you're playing a guy that sounds like a guy that did an imitation of a guy.
Okay. Hey, look, you don't like my pirate? Just tell me. That's
I know. But it's not that. I mean, we come into the scenes all the time. I have a bunch of voices that I do.
Right.
And it seems like there's kind of two schools of thought that are out there, and people both, I think, credit us both for having very good characters, which is, I think, why it's a good topic for us, because people think we have good characters, but at the same time, I know that I wish that I didn't have as cartoonish of characters as I have at times.
It's always good for you. It's always good for other people to tell you you're doing a good job, and it's always good for you to never think you're doing a good job. So I say it's good that we both don't like where we're at with our characters, because that means we're striving to make them better. Today, our podcast takes place in the La Granja parking lot. This is kind of like Pollos Hermanos. This is what I think of when I pull in.
This is exactly Pollos Hermanos.
I mean, if you were to tell me that this was a money laundering operation for hardcore drugs,
it is.
I would just be like, okay.
And it's right next to the Mexican restaurant that's closed so many times they couldn't recover.
JoJo's Cafe, I think it is. Or?
No, I don't know.
We won't mention names.
We won't mention anything.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What was that character? Whatever.
Oh, character. Yeah.
So for me, I thought what would be helpful, if we're going to speak to I guess maybe other improvisers or other actors, is what do we do when we come into a scene to be so dedicated to a character that's never been invented before? What is that first thing that you do when you come into a scene?
He wants something, or he or she wants something.
What does that mean?
I always want to walk into a scene with the want. What my character wants is going to determine what my character says. It's going to determine what my character does. That's my belief. And so from there, it's what kind of character would exist in this world, I guess, is also another thing that would pop out.
So would that mean that you may not have your character created if somebody else starts the scene? So if somebody starts opening with a line of dialogue, are you already in there with your character, or?
No, I don't think so. Because I think if I were to come in with a character immediately, I might step on whatever it is they're creating too. So because I don't want to give myself too many things, and that's just me. I feel like it's my job to paint my scene partner. It's my scene partner's job to paint me. And when I say paint, I mean give me gifts. Tell me who I am. You know, Pirate Joe. I can't believe we're lost on this desert island. Now I'm Pirate Joe. And I'll say, okay, what would Pirate Joe do? And unfortunately, right now at this stage of the game, I would probably be like, yar, you gotta do whatever. And I would go into pirate, but it would start that way. To make it clear to the audience that I'm a pirate, and maybe I'd make a little hook with my finger, whatever.
Or, I mean, but the other decision that you can make with that character is you could just be a guy named Joe that happens to be a pirate without an accent.
Sure.
And then that thing that you want could be like cosmetics off of a Mary Kay truck. That's kind of what you pirate.
Right. Okay.
I mean,
that's a good point. That's a really good point, is to not be the stereotypical character.
Which I think we play into a lot with us being like bigger guys. I always play a fucking, I'm sorry. Damn it.
I'll edit that, don't worry.
I always play like a Goomba guy. I feel like in every show I'm like, hey, what are we doing? Forget about it.
But see, there's certain characters I feel the audience likes and wants to see. For some reason, one time, you remember the scene, I think, when I came in and I came in and it had something to do with Switzerland cheese. Remember the Switzerland cheese? And I'm like Swedish. Was it Swedish? This is the conversation I'm having in my head. Swedish accent? What's Switzerland? Is it Swedish? What's the accent? I'm going in New Yorker, and I just went into the scene. I was like, "Hey, I got your Switzerland cheese ready. I get the holes in it." You know, the audience loved it,
and it was great because I think the laugh came from the fact that the audience was like. I think there were two. For me, the laughter came from the fact that I knew 100% you didn't know how to do a Swiss accent, and you weren't going to try it. And then number two, you said, "I'm still going to be in this scene because it is my duty to come in here because I have an idea, I have something to offer, and it's valuable.
Right.
And here's how I'm going to offer it." And you owned it, and then you did the right thing. You came in, you owned it, and you left.
Okay.
And
it goes with what you're saying. It's funny. I think, yeah, you're right. It's funnier because I was the Switzerland cheese sales guy, or I was from Switzerland, but my accent was wrong. Everything was not right. He was this. He had a backstory just in that. He was this,
But then I just imagined this guy from the Bronx.
Right.
His backstory that I painted the second that happened is, here's a guy that probably got married to this woman that lived in New York, and she wanted to go and live back home with like her family.
Right.
And so this is the only job he could find.
Yeah.
And we caught him at this very moment making his cheese delivery.
Yep.
And it all justified, made sense to me. And the audience made that jump as well.
Right.
So, like when I come in as a character, a lot of times I don't look for a want. I just change my body position.
Okay.
I'll hunch. I'll lead with an elbow. I'll give myself a limp because I have a limp anyway lately.
Right.
I'll literally hop into a scene, jump into a scene. I'll drag my foot, and it makes me feel a certain way. And once I start talking, then the rest of it starts to.
Sure. Well, the body position I think is so important because immediately you can change your entire outlook. Because like if you lead, we had a student who, Stu, who we were doing that, walking around the room. I had them walk down I learned this from Tom, walk down one end of the stage, and then when you turn around, come back, and I'm going to ask you some questions. And that was it. That was the exercise. And try and see what character you are as you're making that turn. And so Stu started walking down with his hand out like this, pointing out with his right hand. And not really pointing at anything in particular, but just holding his arm out and pointing. And by the time he came around the corner, he was this noble, dignified, very, very professional. I could see the frill. I told him I could see the frill on his sleeve. Like he had a puffy shirt on or something. Like you can just see all that. The audience can see all that,
right.
Just by making a gesture. That's a very important point.
So, how do we keep the character from taking the light away from the actual scene?
That's a good question. The character can't overpower or start steamrolling. Steamrolling is just another term for overpowering, the scene and just it becoming gimmicky or a gag.
Right, and the reason why I ask is
like my perfect pirate that I have. Ripe for steamrolling.
Which it could be, but the reason why I ask is there are years of sketch comedy that's out there, and I don't want to name any names because I may end up in one of these places one day, fingers crossed.
Yes.
That there are pockets of time where they find a quirky character.
Sure.
And they're like, this is the skit for 3 minutes, and they come in and they're real quirky. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba! I'm the quirky guy. And then there's 3 other people that are just basically negating the whole time. No, oh my God. They're annoyed by this character. As opposed to having this very interesting customer, or this very interesting doctor, or this very interesting person that has a relationship with other people in the scene, get into a either extremely familiar situation that we all understand and getting into the minutia and getting really deep and intricate and emotionally charged, and it really doesn't need to be that emotionally charged, which is what makes it funny, or going into kind of a strange situation that ends up again being a normal thing. So, people fighting over who ate the last of the ketchup, but the scene takes place in Mars.
It's so weird to say eat ketchup. That's such a strange. But I understand what you're saying. Because you use ketchup. You don't eat ketchup. But I'm sorry.
What? What are you talking about?
What? You don't eat the ketchup.
What are you eating talking about the ketchup?
I think sketch is so different from live improv, and the characters are different. You get great characters from improv. You then can take those characters and put them in a sketch, and then they can be really funny and overpower because they're the focal point. But for us, in an improv scene, you have to there's a little checklist of things, because it has to happen. The scene has to happen, and the characters can come in, but the characters still have so many more jobs to do, because you have, you have to create the scene, and keep the scene going, and we never know where it's gonna go. That in itself changes it. So I think a character in a sketch is the evolution of the character that you create in an improv scene. He can be bigger. He can be, in an improv scene, like one of my favorite characters is from is it Kids in the Hall?
Sure, I'll take Kids in the Hall.
Kids in the Hall?
Sure, yes.
I Want to Stick My Balls in It.
That is The State.
The State. Okay, I'm sorry. I knew I was
That
wrong.
is The State.
Okay. So The State. So that guy, right? It's Uncle. Was it Uncle?
I don't remember his name.
Whatever. So his whole thing is, I want to stick my balls in it. He's got 2 little plastic balls that he puts in all the food. People bring him stuff, and he puts it. That's a
total
game.
It's a game that came out of improv, I'm sure. And but The State isn't. I mean, it's not really sketch comedy, in my opinion.
Okay.
Which could be a whole different podcast.
Right.
I look at that as more like blackout scenes, or I guess those are sketch too, but I mean vignettes.
Okay.
So it's not. There's no real plot or evolution or changing character. It's just a guy doing a funny thing. It's like watching someone juggle, because it's funny, or it's fun. It's entertaining. But so, anywho, that's character. I don't think we've resolved anything, but I think it was fun.
We talked about stuff.
So we've got a show coming up here soon, and go to our website, www.sickpuppiescomedy.com, and watch Tony and I and the rest of the Sick Puppies develop characters right before your very eyes off the spot.
It's a lot of fun.
This has been Steakout. I'm Casey Casperson.
I'm Anthony Francis.
Have a good day.
Let's go eat some ketchup.